8 months ago, my mom suddenly died. And for the first few months, I never thought that it was possible to ever live a happy life again. But the moment this started to happen for me, that life would settle back down and I would get back into my routines and I would feel happier and feel better, there was this voice inside my head that was trying to convince me that all of a sudden this now means that I'm letting go of her and that she's not as important to me as she was before. So this guilt would creep in. And this guilt I have really found incredibly hard to handle, because it's this constant battle in your head that goes on the one side where you want to move on and you want to feel happier. But then there's this other side that goes, well, but that means that you're forgetting about this person and your body does not want to do that. It's almost as if the more you're moving on and the more time passes, the less you think about them and the less time you spend to sit down with them and think about memories together. And it's almost like as if maybe the memories are fading as well. As we all know, over time, this is what normally happens. But I've really struggled with this. Okay, how happy can I get without forgetting about her and without not acknowledging the fact that her passing away has been the worst thing that's ever happened to me? And I really have to say that this constant battle is incredibly tough to handle, especially because you're going to be working full time. Then apart from working, you're going to have to do other things, and there's such little time in order to really think about that person, because you don't want to be sad all day either. So you try and push it away. And then when you really start to heal, every single time I feel this force pulling me back, going, no, wait. Do you know what this means? If you're now happy again and if you feel better, and maybe even if you're just as happy as you were before, or maybe and hopefully even happier than you were before. You might think, oh my God, that's crazy. I could never be happier than before that person was there. But I do think it's possible. And I do think that that's what we should be aiming for without feeling bad for it at the same time. And what I've really strongly felt is that it feels so wrong. It feels so wrong to be happy without that person, because it's like, how can I possibly just live my normal life if I've literally lost that person? I mean, it's such a constant battle, because it goes back and forth and you're trying so hard to go, no, but it's good for me to be happier and it's good for me to move on. And then this other side goes, but you shouldn't do that, because the sadness and the pain, somehow we connected to that person passing away. So how could you possibly move forward when your body is telling you that moving forward means that maybe you don't love them as much anymore, or that they're not as important to you anymore, or that their passing really isn't that big of a tragedy? But what we have to realize is that none of that is true. Even if you don't think about them as much as you did in the beginning, and even if you don't cry all the time anymore, that is just a natural process of your body and your brain helping you to move on with life. So how can we deal with this in a healthy way? What I've mentioned in a previous video is that you have to schedule your timings with them. So when you do the grieving process, it's incredibly important that you say to yourself, okay, when is the time, especially if you're a busy person, that I sit down and I actually look at photos of that person or videos, listen to their voice notes, or maybe look at some messages of letters they send you, or anything that you have related to them. Schedule time, maybe once a week, maybe it's once a day, maybe you want to do a longer session. That's totally up to you. And I realized as well that after I came back from Australia, where I really had a lot of time to grieve and to think because I wasn't working, as soon as I got back to Germany and the daily routine settled in and I was working a lot and doing so many things, meeting people, I realized that less and less I would schedule time with her. And in fact, I didn't look at any of the things that I have on my mom for about the past 2 months, because there was just so much going on that I didn't have time. And then I realized that I need this time with her in order to go through this process in a healthy way. So then I sat myself down last week and I was reading through all the things again. I read her cards and I looked at her photos and I was crying a lot and I was talking to her, and that felt so good again to reconnect and to be able to also do this while you're in a good headspace. I think is so incredibly crucial. What I've also realized is that this constant battling of these two emotions, right, is incredibly tiring. I felt so emotional during that period when I realized what was happening inside my body, because I felt so stressed, so anxious. I would cry a lot and I didn't quite understand, because overall I felt better. But what I didn't realize was that underlying emotion that was telling me, do not move on. And it is going to affect you, maybe not just mentally, but also physically. So instead, let's do these things. Realize that it's totally okay that you feel happier. And most importantly, that they would have wanted that for you. And of course, it's important to still remember them and appreciate them and not forget about them completely, but I don't think that's even possible. And I think that in order to be ourselves again and to feel truly happy again, we just have to let go of that beginning stage where we're really just in absolute devastation, because it's impossible to live a good and a healthy and a happy life if you're constantly stuck in that exact same mindset. I now tell myself over and over and over again that even though I am happier, and I really am so happy at the moment, but this does not mean that my love to my mom has vanished or disappeared, or that I don't value her as much anymore. Rather the opposite. Me trying to feel better and become happier is because I know that that is all she would have wanted for me. So there's absolutely no reason to feel guilty. You're doing nothing wrong by moving forward and wanting to feel better and wanting a happier life. So let's get rid of these feelings of guilt and just embrace the fact that we can also, after such a big tragedy, feel happy and good within ourselves again. And eventually we're going to look back and think, wow, that was really one heck of a process, but I'm so glad and proud of myself that I pushed through and that I never gave up and that I kept trying and kept exploring those emotions and dealt with them in all sorts of ways. And especially if, like me, you've never lost anybody in your life before, wow, it's honestly a lot, but with time and care, you are going to be able to sort out these emotions, to handle all the emotions. And I really hope that these videos are going to help you through this process.